Here's a creationist who is very annoyed that scientists don't take him seriously.
But I will tell you something, an interesting story. So that's similar to that. So somebody wanted to meet a very rich man, a very, very rich man, said that he would get me together with the top 5 people in origin of life research. And I said, sure, let's do it, and let's discuss what are the key things that need to be addressed to know that we're going in the right direction here. And all the others would not meet. This guy would fly us to Paris, he'd fly us to London, anywhere we want to go. Business class flights all the way, limos picking us up in our home. And I know he does this because I've gone to others of his meetings like this. And he'll rent a beautiful facility for us, and we'll have servants the whole way.
So a really, really rich man who knows a lot of scientists offered to fly you around and provide you with servants, eh? That sounds familiar. Did he take you to his island, too?
Just to discuss this, because he's interested in topics like this. None of them would agree. One said that, I can't say who it is but one said, I would only come if I didn't have to defend anything I've written.
Why can't you say who it is? Did you sign an NDA? That would be weird if no meeting ever took place.
Another one said, oh, well, Jim Tour's religion has so influenced him, it's no use even talking to him. I don't even bring religion into this topic. They have some religion maybe, but I don't bring any religion. All my articles on this are purely scientific. I never even bring in some intelligent designer somewhere. I never even do that. I just say, here's the chemistry.
So where have these articles been published? Are they peer-reviewed? Because it doesn't seem like your peers think very highly of your research.
So they won't get together with me on that, which is quite telling. But another thing happened recently. I was recently contacted by a group overseas, someone who works in an origin of life research group. And he's worked in that group for many years. And he said, I was watching one of your videos online, and I was laughing the whole time because I realized you were right on every point.
Are you able to say who that is? Here's a picture of this guy talking to all the scientists that agree with him who are just out of frame.
And I said, this reminds me of the story of Gideon when he went down to the Midianite camp and God showed him what they're saying about him, and it assured him that he was doing the right thing. And so I said, I never thought I'd hear it from someone in your research group there. He says, oh, I want to tell you, all the students here are watching your video too, and they all agree with you. But I understand with students, you got to finish up your PhD. You just got to do it.
What does finishing your PhD have to do with anything? Even if they did believe you, why would that get in the way of getting their degree? Are you implying that they were just writing dissertations that they didn't believe were true?
So I understand that, but the arguments that I'm putting forward to the novice, they may think, oh, well, the expert wouldn't agree with them. The arguments that I put forward are strictly chemistry arguments, and it's not something you can easily argue with. And in fact, my colleagues who are not particularly, they have no dog in this fight. They're just synthetic organic chemists. They look at this and they're like, are you the only guy calling these origin of life people out? And so they just look at the data. So the arguments that I put before you today, if there had been organic chemists here, they're the ones who get it the most. They're the ones who yeah, we have no idea.
If your point is that there are questions in origin of life research that haven't been answered yet, I don't see how that vindicates creationism unless you're making a God of the gaps argument.
So, I don't know, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Hi, thanks for joining us tonight. I noticed that, I think at one point in the presentation you talked about, I believe you referred to evolution as a theory, and you used that word at one point. And I remember, keep hearing that the word theory has a different meaning in scientific context, where it's not just a conjecture or hypothesis, but a well-established explanation for the way things are, and there's tons of evidence behind it. And I think I've heard analogies to the theory of evolution being like the theory of special relativity and things like that. So, you want to comment on that?
Sure.
Yeah, in science, a theory is a hypothesis that has been well corroborated by evidence.
So, look, we see quote-unquote evolution in the lab all the time.
Why is it quote-unquote evolution? Do you deny that clearly observable mutation and natural selection is really evolution? If that's not evolution, what is?
It depends on what you define as evolution.
Why is the evolution that you see in the lab not evolution? Is this dude going to make the argument that we see microevolution but not macroevolution?
So the word evolution is used so broadly. That's why I kept saying evolution of a complex system. Show me the chemistry behind the evolution of a complex system. We see evolution in the lab all the time, depending on what you call evolution. Small changes with it, you see this all the time. And so it's all lumped together under evolution.
It's all lumped together under evolution because there's no qualitative distinction between simple mutations and evolution of a complex system. It's merely a quantitative distinction. This is just a new version of the common creationist argument that while we can clearly see microevolution, we can't see macroevolution. And often creationists will draw a question-begging distinction between the two such that they define macroevolution as whatever amount of evolution hasn't been directly observed. I bet if you pressed this guy on what constitutes evolution of a complex system, he would effectively just be referring to whatever amount of complexity we haven't directly seen evolve.
That's why I put on the title, Evolution of a Complex System. Now, as far as a theory, if you would like a different word, we can say a conjecture. We can say a proposal.
Why not hypothesis? That's the word scientists typically use for what you seem to mean.
But these are proposals. They are conjectures based upon evidence that they have.
They're not just educated guesses, they are models that have been consistently corroborated by experiment. They've been tested, and they've passed those tests.
And I understand you do this, you put forth hypotheses. You want to use the word hypotheses, you put forth hypotheses.
And then those hypotheses are tested, and when they consistently pass those tests, they become theories.
But what's happened is we hold on to these hypotheses. We hold on to them and we treat them as if they are facts.
No, we don't. The whole point of formulating a hypothesis is to have something to test. The point of a hypothesis is to interrogate it, not treat it like a fact. The only hypotheses that get treated even remotely like facts are the ones that have been scrutinized so thoroughly and have stood up to that scrutiny so well that they become irrational to doubt. And at that point, they're not hypotheses anymore, they're theories.
So that if there's a student in the class who disagrees or who has trouble with that, they're mocked. They're not just left alone, they are mocked. There are professionals who are at my level who are not put forth in certain societies and for certain awards because we cannot buy into those hypotheses because we don't see the evidence that's convincing for us.
The words, "that's convincing for us," are doing a lot of heavy lifting here. It's hard to find evidence that is convincing for you if you are doctrinally committed to not finding any evidence convincing.
And the other thing that happens, and I'll tell you, this is a real thing.
You know it's a real thing when he has to specify that it's a real thing.
Is that you have a group of scientists here, and I've sat in their presence, and they will say there's 100 million people in this country that don't buy into evolution. What is wrong with the United States? There's 100 million people that don't buy into it, and those are all the Trump supporters. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
And then I told those scientists they were stupid, and everyone stood up and clapped. This guy has a lot of, yeah, that totally happened stories.
Maybe the 100 million people don't buy into it because you haven't convinced them. Could that be?
What specifically would convince you? Do you want a time machine so you can see the primordial ooze yourself? Also, guys like this love to claim that people with mainstream views won't debate them. But this dude won't name a single one of the scientists who supposedly refuses to discuss this issue. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.